Africa, often referred to as the cradle of humanity, holds some of the richest and most complex histories on Earth. Yet, when the grand civilizations of the past are discussed, why is it that the empires of Africa are so often left out of the narrative? This is the land where gold fueled economies, where scholars shaped human thought, and where architectural marvels rose from the earth, standing as testaments to human ingenuity. These empires were powerful, innovative, and vast. So why do we hear so little about them today? What caused their collapse, and what lessons can we learn from their forgotten legacies? The story begins in Nubia, the homeland of the Kingdom of Kush. Flourishing for over 1,000 years, Kush was more than just a neighbor to Egypt. It was an equal and sometimes a conqueror. The 25th dynasty of Egypt, ruled by Kushite pharaohs, was a period of incredible influence, uniting the lands of Nubia and Egypt under the leadership of kings like Taharqa. Have you ever wondered what it took for an African kingdom to challenge Egypt's dominance? The Kushites didn't merely mimic their neighbors. They reshaped Egyptian culture and left their indelible mark on history. But even the strongest kingdoms are not immune to time. Environmental changes, the shifting of trade routes, and external pressures from empires like Rome slowly sapped Kush of its strength. By the 4th century CE, the mighty kingdom fell silent, its pyramids standing as mournful reminders of a lost golden age. Further west lay the Empire of Ghana, a civilization so wealthy it earned the moniker Land of Gold. From the 6th to the 13th century, Ghana was the beating heart of trans-Saharan trade. Its rulers controlled the flow of gold, salt, and other precious commodities, making the empire a magnet for merchants from North Africa and beyond. How did Ghana maintain its wealth and power for so long? Its leaders built advanced irrigation systems, fostered agricultural innovation, and established a strong military to guard trade routes. But Ghana's prosperity became its vulnerability. By the 11th century, the Almoravids, a Berber Muslim dynasty, launched invasions under the banner of religious conquest. Coupled with internal strife and economic shifts, the empire's foundation began to crumble. What happens when an empire collapses? For Ghana, it meant absorption into a new power rising in the region, the Mali Empire. If Ghana laid the groundwork, Mali took African power and influence to dazzling new heights. Founded by the legendary Sundiata Keita in the 13th century, Mali became a beacon of wealth, culture, and learning. But one name shines brighter than any other in its history: Mansa Musa. Known as the richest man in history, Mansa Musa's wealth wasn't merely the stuff of legends, it was transformative. His 1,324 pilgrimage to Mecca, accompanied by a caravan of tens of thousands in gold so abundant it caused inflation in Cairo, left the world in awe. But did you know his influence extended far beyond wealth? Mansa Musa transformed Timbuktu into a hub of knowledge and culture. The libraries of Timbuktu house tens of thousands of manuscripts on medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy, rivaling the great intellectual centers of the medieval world. Yet, as prosperous as Mali was, it too began to fracture. By the 15th century, internal divisions and the shifting trade routes weakened its grip, paving the way for the rise of yet another African titan, the Songhai Empire. Songhai was not just another successor, it was an empire that surpassed even Mali in scale. Stretching across modern-day Senegal, Mali, Niger, and Nigeria, Songhai, under leaders like Askia Muhammad, reached unprecedented heights of military, economic, and cultural power. But here's a question: how does a colossal empire maintain control over such vast lands? Askia Muhammad's administrative reforms ensured centralized governance and efficient taxation. The University of Sankore in Timbuktu continued to thrive, producing scholars who contributed to global knowledge. Yet, despite its greatness, Songhai could not withstand the force of change. In 1591, a Moroccan army armed with gunpowder weapons invaded, marking the end of Songhai's dominance. What lessons can we learn from this? Perhaps that technological disparities can overturn even the most powerful empires. Moving southward, another remarkable story unfolds in the Kingdom of Zimbabwe. Between the 11th and 15th centuries, Great Zimbabwe rose as a center of trade and architectural innovation. The Great Zimbabwe ruins, with their towering stone walls constructed without mortar, stand as a testament to African ingenuity. But what made this kingdom thrive? Great Zimbabwe controlled trade routes connecting the African interior to the Indian Ocean. Gold, ivory, and exotic goods flowed through its markets, enriching its rulers. But as with the empires of West Africa, overexploitation of resources, environmental changes, and the shifting focus of trade led to its decline. By the 16th century, Great Zimbabwe was abandoned, leaving behind ruins that still puzzle archaeologists today. Who built these structures? Despite baseless colonial claims attributing them to foreign builders, the evidence is clear. They were the work of the Shona people, a triumph of African craftsmanship. On the eastern coast of Africa, the Swahili city-states tell yet another story of African brilliance. From Mogadishu to Kilwa, these city-states thrived as maritime trading hubs between the 10th and 16th centuries. Blending African, Arab, Persian, and Indian influences, they created a cosmopolitan culture unique to the region. Did you know that Kilwa was one of the wealthiest and most beautiful cities of its time? The Swahili city-states controlled trade routes in the Indian Ocean, exchanging gold, ivory, and spices with merchants from Arabia, India, and China. But their prosperity attracted the attention of a new power, the Portuguese. In the late 15th century, the Portuguese, armed with superior weaponry, disrupted the delicate balance of trade and power. By the 16th century, the Swahili city-states had been reduced to shadows of their former selves. What can this teach us about the vulnerability of even the most prosperous societies? Why are these empires and kingdoms so often forgotten? The answer lies in the scars of colonialism. When European powers carved up Africa in the 19th century, they erased or diminished its histories. African achievements were dismissed as myths, and its ruins were falsely attributed to outsiders. This deliberate erasure wasn't just ignorance, it was a tool of oppression, a way to justify the exploitation of the continent and its people. But today, Africa's forgotten empires are being reclaimed. Historians and archaeologists are piecing together the fragments of these lost civilizations, uncovering the truth behind their rise and fall. The libraries of Timbuktu, long hidden from colonial looters, are being preserved and digitized. The ruins of Great Zimbabwe and the pyramids of Kush are protected as global heritage sites. What do these empires teach us? That history is cyclical. That no empire, no matter how wealthy or powerful, is immune to the forces of change. That technological innovation, environmental stewardship, and cultural preservation are the keys to lasting prosperity. But most importantly, they remind us that Africa's history is not a single story. It's a mosaic of triumphs and struggles, each as vital as the next. The rise and fall of Africa's forgotten empires are more than just history lessons. They're a call to action, a call to recognize the richness of Africa's past, to challenge outdated narratives, and to honor the legacies of those who came before us. These empires may have fallen, but their stories continue to inspire. Will we listen?